And now we have in studio with us right now Mateo Monk. Hello, Mateo.
Hello.
It's good to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome, for sure. And we wanted to bring you in because we read on Appalachian Jamwich that you had a new album called State of Affairs. And, you know, from what I read in the review, it sounded really on point and it aligned a lot of, you know, with what we're doing here on Bring Me to Life Radio. So I thought maybe it would be a good idea to bring you in. So for anybody who doesn't know who you are or hasn't heard any of your music, could you sort of explain, you know, who you are and what you're doing with your music?
Yes, I'd be happy to. Well, I kind of I first started doing my thing largely as a reggae musician, a reggae hybrid musician, mainly playing with bands, starting out in Boulder, Colorado. But then when I came to DC, sort of following up some of that career arc, I sort of ended up shifting gears as I became disenchanted with certain aspects of the music industry and more inspired to, just kind of carve out my own musical path. So I just sort of started doing the looper thing as a necessity, really, to have something I could earn a living with, earn my daily bread, but be honing my craft, writing the music, and get out there and, you know, hustling in the rat race, really. And but then that got to grow to the point where I started getting on some music festivals and starting playing for the right kinds of crowds, the people with open minds and hearts who really are there for the music and the message and the vibes, rather than a bar where people are there to chase tail and, you know, do their own little ego trip. So I think the setting is really important, and I'm very, very deeply grateful that I've gotten to a place in life now where more and more often I play in good settings where people are there to commune in a sort of spiritual manner with the power of music and the power of collective consciousness and community, you know. And so I think that's kind of where I'm coming from musically. A disenchanted reggae musician who is carving his path with looping to be able to just continue to create and put the vibes out there and connect with people as much as possible.
Definitely. I remember seeing you for the first time. It was at Dante's, and I'm not actually sure how we got connected to start off with. I just remember seeing your name and like messaging you on Facebook, and then you said you were going to be at Dante's, and so me and Shannon and Ashton went out and watched you at Dante's, and like just your lyrics, your the energy that you kind of put into the music is just so I don't know, it just feels very pure. Like you have a very pure intention with your music. So I think that was really wonderful. Why did you name this next album State of Affairs?
Well, I have sensed a lot of anxiety and uneasiness in the world for so many reasons beyond just the current political snafu we seem to be in, beyond even some of the more logistical problems we have managing society. I think that people are anxious and uneasy and even depressed almost because of a spiritual bankruptcy that's no fault of their own. It's just we're so deeply conditioned to accept these what I would call Babylonian paradigms that really just amplify suffering on earth and devour up resources in an unsustainable way, you know. So I think that so much of humanity is disconnected from nature, disconnected to the cycles and energy of the earth, from just sort of the harmonic resonance of the earth and nature. And because of that, there's deep sadness and deep existential anxiety, and I can feel that suffering globally. So I named this album State of Affairs to just sort of talk about that situation in general. And some of it is political, and some of it is very spiritual. And it's funny, I kind of, I don't know where I heard it. I think it might have been the Bible, but just the concept of, having an olive branch in one hand and a sword in the other. You bring peace and you bring healing, but at the same time, you realize that healing isn't going to do much good if there's a systematic ignorance that is guiding the ethos of humanity, that is increasing and multiplying, the starvation of the human soul, suffering, ways of life that are out of balance with nature, out of balance with our natural humanity, all these things, So anyhow, so this album is just, a simple artistic way to try to address some of these things, if not even to solve them, just address them. I think it's so important that you can't really heal until you sort of know the extent of your sickness, and so I don't know if there's healing in this album. I do believe there is, and guidance. However, more than anything, it's just saying, like, can we admit here that this is kind of sick, that people are suffering, and that it doesn't look like our leaders are really making the right choices and decisions to better the situation in a sustainable way,
Right. When you said that, kind of like addressing the real issues, it reminds me of the word holistic. Like our healthcare, they try to address the symptoms, but not like the root of the problem. So I guess maybe your album's kind of like a holistic album here.
Yeah, very much so. Sometimes I run into these ideological conflicts or intellectual debates, where people don't quite understand that holistic nature, or the looking at the causes and roots of things rather than just the symptoms, and that's definitely key to my approach. Yeah.
Cool. Did you want to introduce the first song?
Sure. Inner Eye is the name of this tune. It starts off the album. I chose really to put it at the beginning, really honestly as sort of an homage to like classic reggae albums. There's these, sometimes the first tune is like this powerful kind of triumphant arrival of the conquering Lion of Judah. There's this feeling of the royal court doors have just opened up and something real is coming through, So yeah, I guess in a sense, musically and aesthetically, I was trying to recreate that feeling that I used to love so much, hearing some of my reggae heroes. But then, it talks about opening up the inner eye, and then it says, open like the western sky, when the sun and moon combine, the jewel of a silent mind. I think that the first and foremost cause of suffering in the world today is that our minds have run away with us. They're restless, and they're cluttered with input from every direction. And we need to retake over our minds, understand our minds, get a grip on our minds and emotions to a degree, and become the masters of ourselves if we're going to really have any resilience and buoyancy in this world to keep things on the right track. So that's what this song is about, yeah.
think your way to heaven. You can't collect it in a book. There is no answer to your questions. No one can tell you how it looks. For he who knows is he who sees. Restless mind is the disease. And in this time, world commotion, master of your own mind is the highest devotion. Open up your inner eye. Open like the western sky. When the sun and moon combine, the jewel of a silent mind. Stir up the pond and you muddy the water. Let it settle down before you have a taste. Then you can see all the way to the bottom, and the reflections of the heavens shining upon its face. But some of them, they stumble like the blind, even though their eyes are fine. Because without this inner light, even a noonday sun is an endless night. Open up your inner eye. Open like the western sky. When the sun and moon combine, the jewel of a silent mind. Open up your inner eye. It's the jewel of a silent mind. Talking about that inner eye. Some of them, they stumble like the blind, even though their eyes are fine. Because without this inner light, even the noonday sun is an endless night. Open up your inner eye. Open like the western sky. When the sun and moon combine, the jewel of a silent mind. Open up your inner eye. The jewel of a silent mind. Talking about your inner eye. It's the jewel of a silent mind.
All right, that was Inner Eye off of Mateo Monk's new album, State of Affairs. And we have him live in studio right now. Hello.
Hello, greetings.
Could you explain the inner eye? What is the inner eye all about?
Specifically, it would be what is considered to be the sixth chakra in Eastern understanding of the human energy system. And more importantly, it's in the Hindu look at it, the Ida and the Pingala, which are two channels of energy, the moon and sun channel, that rise up the spine with the Sushumna, they come in conjunction at the third eye. And so The third eye is sort of a chakra that can't quite be penetrated and illuminated until these forces, the sun and the moon, become one. The third eye is the place where dualistic vision is transcended, and you can begin to tap into non-dual awareness and sort of attune to the fundamental unity of all consciousness. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm speaking about there. And that's why I say, when the sun and moon combine, it's the jewel of a silent mind. Our minds are restless because we're in a chronic state of fear and desire, and we're constantly planning, running, seeking, and that's sort of the big trap. And that's why we're never free and why we are constantly in a state of misery, because we don't understand that the mind itself is perpetuating the suffering, that it is the cage, and that until you can sort of grab the reins of it and make it stop running and cease and be present and witness and be aware, then it's very hard to transcend dualistic vision and to sort of witness and touch, a non-dualistic experience, an experience of unity.
Mm-hmm. So obviously your music's very spiritually connected and very spiritually minded. How long did it take you to record this album, and were there any kind of special practices or mantras that you would do during the recording process?
This album was a unique experience for me as well, because it's the first time in my life that creativity has sort of pushed itself through me very aggressively. It's funny to say that, but these songs, all but maybe one of them, were written since the springtime. And, I usually write maybe 2, 3, 4 songs a year tops. But, here I just kind of wrote a whole album over the span of a couple months. And each song, too, it was one of those things that sort of did write itself, especially the song Wildflowers and Sage, which we'll talk about later. But, I would just get that hook, that vision, that lyric in my head, and I just knew that was the meat of it, and it had to come together. And, yeah. One second here, quick technical difficulty. Yes, anywho, so where were we?
Talking about your process for recording the
Right,
album.
right.
Saying that just
Yeah.
creatively aggressive.
So these songs really wrote themselves. You could say they sort of manifested, of course, that required a bit of discipline to help flesh them out and bring them the body that they needed. But these things really just sort of came through this spring. And I knew there was a certain urgency to put it down and record the record. I'm a great procrastinator. It's one of my best skills. And, I had already told myself, I'd record this in the winter when things slow down, because I have a busy summer and I really do kind of get on the road a bit and run back and forth, try to keep in life together, So it's amazing for me personally that I was able to just squeeze in recording an album in the midst of all these midsummer things. But I just knew that, the way this album had sort of come through, it was relevant to today. It was relevant to now. And I knew that if I waited till after this election cycle, now's the time when people needed to hear these messages. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I just sort of bit off a big bite and tried to get this thing done and worked hard and focused and got it done. One more thing, though, that I think is related to your question about my process and mantras and things, too, though. I recently posted a book that I had found very moving, and I'm usually not a type of person to place much of my spiritual faith on books, but over the winter I read I Am That by Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj. It's a classic book from the 70s by, he didn't write it, but it was a series of interviews. He was a realized saint who just worked at a little shop in India selling beady cigarettes that he rolled himself. A great sage selling cigarettes. it's just beautiful, how light can manifest in the strangest places, in the strangest ways. But he was as bright of light as there is. And his book, I Am That, is a very powerful transmission of his sort of non-dual awareness. And it's a very potent medicine for helping to sort of diffuse this dualistic maze of a mindset that so many of us are trapped in. And so over the winter, I read that chapter a day, just contemplating it, and it really did something to me. It took a weight off of my heart. It took a weight off of my mind. I can't even necessarily articulate what it helps me to see, but I definitely aha'd something that was fundamental and that since then has absolutely been unfolding and flowering and dawning. And it was a very large part of this album. I can definitely say without that experience, I don't think this album would have happened, nor would I've had the discipline to actually push it through. So that's a large part of it for me. And then in terms of specific things, I do have a daily yoga and meditation practice that's very important to me. I've kept it up every day for 11 years solid without fail, apart from maybe 3 or 4 days where I was either deathly ill or just something like ridiculously hard, But so it's just my standard daily practice mixed with the inspiration of that book, mixed with the urgency to express yourself in such a dire and confusing world climate.
For sure. Beautifully said, definitely.
Thank you.
Especially the political climate at this moment. Did you want to interview, or excuse me, do you want to introduce the next song here?
Sure. We're going to play State of Affairs. That's the title track of the album. As far as music and aesthetics, this one is unashamedly sort of a salute to Fela Kuti's style of music. And I purposely sort of wrote the lyrics in a little bit more of a politically aware chanting style to sort of suit the genre of the music that I was working with here, which is kind of an Afrobeat vibe. And then, so I just kind of try to lay out some of the basic problems and how it says I feel sad about and I feel mad about it. It's like I was saying earlier, it's the first step is witnessing the sickness. This song, I'm not sure if it offers any solutions at all. It's just a simple, humble statement saying, I feel sad about these things and I feel mad about these things. And that's it.
Coming through your internet connection, the illusion of selection in this farce of an election. There's too much brutality, this us and them mentality, cowardice. When a minor technicality becomes an innocent fatality. Oh, I feel sad about the state of affairs in the world today. Yes, I feel mad about the state of affairs in the world today. I feel an urgency a sense and evil with the tide. This is not the liberty for which our fathers died. There's smoke before the fire, and my head's getting hot. We've already jumped the fryer. This is the kettle pot. It's something sad about the state of affairs in the world today. Oh, I think mad about the state of affairs in the world today. Sad about, mad about, sad about, mad about, sad about, mad about. Yes, I feel sad about, mad about, sad about, mad about, sad about, mad about, sad about. Sad about, mad about, sad about, mad about, sad about, mad about. Sense and evil with the tide. This is not the liberty for which our fathers died. There's smoke before the fire, and mine's getting hot now. We've already jumped the fryer. This is the kettle pot. Something sad about state of affairs in the world today. And nothing mad about state of affairs in the world today. Yeah, sad about, mad about, sad about, mad about, sad about, mad about. I feel sad about, mad about, sad about, mad about. The world's going mad about.
Okay, that was State of Affairs by Mateo Monk off his new album, State of Affairs.
Title track.
Title track, cool. So, State of Affairs, I know right now it's pretty stressful for a lot of people, mainly because of the two candidates that are running right now. Is this when did the song come out? Was it during like when Donald Trump was being Donald Trump out in the limelight? I know he's always been Donald Trump, but he like just recently started getting into the headlines.
I think that this came out sort of in the early primaries or whatever, probably when Clinton and Sanders were going at it. Mm-hmm. And sure, while Trump was definitely starting to stir the nest. But I think that those things were actually pretty secondary for the most part. Like, we've had tons of police brutality, and I think what those elections showed me more than anything, like my ire doesn't necessarily go straight towards Trump and Hillary, although it does, don't get me wrong. But, the media, it's just so sad. It doesn't matter who you're for or against. It's a show, we're not, it's very carefully organized, the information that the public's receiving, and it's not fair and balanced news by any stretch of the matter. In fact, to find fair and balanced news these days is almost like finding a unicorn. It's getting more and more rare, and it's very sad. So, so I talk about that, in that song, nothing but deception coming through your internet connection, so all these things added to it, and then the political situation with Hillary and Trump was certainly just it's like spitting in our faces, right. Knowing how much real trouble we have in the world, and then seeing this clown show going on. It's just nothing but a parade of deception on both sides, and I have so little interest in it,
Mm-hmm. Was this the song that the second song, State of Affairs, was it like one of the earlier songs that you had written and decided the name was so on point that it was the you decided to name the album that?
Not to sound too mystical, but I usually, in meditation, sometimes I'll just kind of get a flash in my mind's eye where I sort of know or feel what either the spirit or something deeper in me, myself, I don't know, deep mind, but I get almost a flash of exactly what is willed to come into existence sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
It may sound a little lofty, but with this album, I mean, I saw the picture I wanted for the cover, and that song sort of wrote itself too, and as soon as it clinched itself, I was like, I think that would be a good title track. And that's not necessarily my personal favorite from the album or what I think is my most profound or anything, but it's the right title for this album because I want to address the state of affairs.
Definitely. And you mentioned earlier that you had to put the work in, and you had to be disciplined. Do you think discipline is important in not just music but like everyday life?
Absolutely. In fact, it's very interesting. I have definitely something to comment about that. Right before I made this album, springtime is here. I'm looking at my home and I'm like, man, like this is the year I have to put some work into this thing. The deck was getting bad. I needed to sand seal that. I needed to put a new roof on my house. I needed to get new gutters. Like it was like there's a certain point where a home's starting to feel a little negative, and you need to, like, if you want to value it and keep it, so that's what I was faced with this spring. And again, I had a lot of work, a lot of things going on, but it was sort of a therapy for me to just dive into that. And I can procrastinate creative work forever because it's so personal, and there's you kind of have to, there's some blood, sweat, and tears that are involved in birthing creative things, but laboring on your house can just be purely physical while your mind and heart are free to contemplate and do things. So I really just got deep on my house, and I worked hard, and I did my deck, did my roof, did all that stuff. And then at the end of that, I was like, man, you have no more excuses, bro. If you could get yourself to sit there and sand that deck every day for 6 to 8 hours a day, get your butt in the studio and do something worthwhile, you fool, So I think seeing what I was able to accomplish with basic life maintenance discipline made me realize, man, come on, man. You got more time and energy than you think. Get this done and stop making excuses. And the nice thing is, I feel like I've been able to ride that momentum. It taught me a little more about using my time valuably and getting her done,
Yeah, definitely. I have gone through something similar, and just kind of starting that in whatever area of your life. If you got to do something, just kind of getting it started, and then slowly like picking it up, and then just like you said, the momentum. You're able to kind of ride the momentum into other areas of your life, and for you, luckily for all of us, for you, it turned into this album here, State of Affairs. Do you want to introduce your next song here? Yeah.
The next song is my personal favorite from the album. And I would even say if the message of the album is capsulized in one song, it would probably be this one, although that could be argued. One unique thing about this song, I'll be honest, its origin was another thing that sort of came in a flash. I was at a Fish show in Philadelphia and, having a good time, spun, whatever you want to say. And they played their new song, Breath and Burning, and it's something like, breath and burning, we are grains of sand, slowly turning at the wave's command. And I really love that image, because it sort of takes the responsibility off your shoulders. It shows that, like, we're part of bigger tides that may or may not have something to do with us personally, and that our nature is to just be that greatest sand and just kind of flow with the tides, just accept and be peaceful, So, but in having that little insight about that lyric, I got like a phrase came into my head that was pretty much the exact chorus of this song, word for word, unedited. The whole chorus just popped in my head. And then I kind of got this inner message that was kind of like, that right there is exactly the message I want you to put out. Like that's what people need to hear. And that chorus was what you're about to hear, but the chorus said, it's just a tombstone crumbling at the end of the material age, slowly succumbing to the wildflowers and sage. Just a tombstone crumbling, a relic of a bygone age, slowly succumbing to the wildflowers and sage. We are the wildflowers and sage. We are the ones who will turn the page. And then you can play it. So play this song, and then we'll comment on it a little more afterwards.
Every day, another tragedy in the news. It makes me say, Lord, the world has really got the blues. It's enough to drive you crazy. No time to lose your mind. The thunder in the distance, it's just the ticking of the hands of time. Just a tombstone crumbling at the end of the material age, slowly succumbing to the wildflowers and sage. A tombstone crumbling, just a relic of a bygone age, slowly succumbing to the wildflowers and sage. I felt like an outlaw ever since I was a child. I didn't fit at all. They were tame, but I was wild. This concrete jungle, you know it's not my world at all. It's a toxic bungle, and I would not wait to see it fall. Just a tombstone crumbling at the end of the material age, slowly succumbing flowers and sage. A tombstone crumbling, a relic of a bygone age, slowly succumbing to the wild flowers and sage. We are the wild flowers and sage. We are the ones who will turn the page. Must crack for a seed to find its way to the sun. Just step back. It's okay to still have fun. If this world is a prison, we are the flowers growing through the bars. 'Cause we never listened when they said we couldn't reach the stars. Just a tombstone crumbling at the end of the material age, slowly succumbing to the wild flowers and sage. A tombstone crumbling, just a relic of a bygone age, slowly succumbing to the wild flowers and sage. We are the wild flowers and sage. We are the ones who will turn the page. We are the wild flowers and sage. Yeah. We are the ones who will turn the page. Hey, 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 yeah, yeah, yeah.
That was Wildflowers and Sage off of Mateo Monk's new album, State of Affairs. That that was a really beautiful song. Very, I don't know, mellow and just. I think I read in Elise's review about the album that it kind of reminded her of just, you know, those summer days where you're just like lying in a field and you're not worried about your phone and, you know, all that material stuff like you're talking about. So I think that, you know, that's so perfect. And when you said turn the page, are you like referring to us? We're going to kind of, you know, we're going to move past the chapter of the material world where we're more focused on material wealth and stuff like that, as opposed to like spiritual wealth and things like that?
Yes, absolutely. One of the ways I kind of look at things is I have a very, very nature-based spirituality. I think that the earth and all of its diversity and beauty and vastness is just almost quite literally the very flowering of the nature and essence of God. I mean, it's the flowering of creation. And I think that, you know, all manifest phenomena is just a state of energy. I believe that everything is conscious, that everything is aware, and everything is awake, you know, and I think that we humans have gotten so polluted in our minds that we've forgotten who we are, and we've forgotten our connection to this vast and beautiful ocean of energy that is life. And it has its own wisdom, it has its own cycles, it takes care of its children. It does. Some people argue that, you know, not nature's cutthroat survival of the fittest. But even that's balance, you know, it's cycles. There's no guarantee in this life. It's just beautiful to be part of such a phenomenal life manifestation that the earth is. So I guess what I'm saying, you know, at the end of the material age, we are the wildflowers and sage. You know, the tombstone is crumbling and slowly succumbing to the wildflowers and sage. You know, saying we are the wildflowers and sage is remembering our true identity. We are one with this planet. We are one with the spirit of life. You know, we are not these false identity that our society places on us. We are not this individual who has this context in the march of civilization. That's all an overlay. That's all human vanity. That's all ambition. It's all just a dream that ends in suffering, you know? So I would like to see that dream stop enslaving humanity and seeing that we are one with the earth and one with nature and one with the life force, that very spirit of life will just rise up through all that and crumble it and just let that dark dream evaporate and let us live a life that is far more in harmony with and less invasive of the earth, that celebrates the earth, that celebrates all life, that celebrates diversity, that can wonder at the beauty of it all and not just try to harvest it and industrialize it and sell it and use it for our luxury and comfort. You know, I mean, there's so many paradigms that are just taken as a given, that are just completely accepted. And those same paradigms are not sustainable and they lead to suffering. And so sometimes people think I'm harsh in my judgments and condemnations of things, but I'm just trying to be real, man. Mm-hmm. This path ends in suffering and everybody knows it. Mm-hmm. So we need to get rid of these outdated paradigms that are enslaving humanity, and we need to turn our hearts and minds inward and orient our awareness back to the earth and rediscover who we are. Mm-hmm. And what we have to celebrate here on earth.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. It kind of reminds me of the story that I read of. Actually, I've seen it a few places just recently, where somebody was saying if you like pick up a flower, because it's so beautiful. It's a flower. You want to kind of like take it home with you. So you pick it and then you take it home, and by like the end of the day, it's dead, and it's like it's not that flower anymore. It's just, you know, it's dead. So you killed the flower. So I think that was actually Wookiefoot, one of their songs. They talk about that, and kind of like just what you're saying is, you know, you don't need to take anything. You don't need to claim something like this is mine. Like this flower is mine. I'm going to take it. It's the earth's just like we are. Like you're saying in the song, we're part of the earth. So I think that's, you know, it's really beautiful, and it's a really great song, and just everything that you do with your music. So you play like electric guitar and then flute and a few other instruments.
Synth and electric guitar and flute are my principals, and then I, throw in some melodica as well and sing, obviously. Yeah.
Yeah.
I play rudimentary in most of the popular band instruments. I mean, I can play drums on some of my tracks, and I can definitely play bass and stuff, but the ones that I really consider my expressive ones, the most expressive, are flute and guitar, flute foremost. And then synth is kind of entirely new to me, but I just absolutely love it, and I think it's amazing, and I have no problem being kind of a one-finger wonder on that thing. Like, sometimes I think when you get so used to speaking fluently on this or that, you kind of love taking it down back to a fundamental level and just doing a lot with little. I know Neil Young used to mix up his bands, and he'd make his bass player play keys and the keys player play drums, because he didn't want people having that confidence. He wanted it. He wanted that rawness of wanting it, so for me, the synth is kind of my outlet like that, where I get to sort of play and explore, not as one who's a master of that craft, but as a kid who just thinks it's awesome.
Definitely, yeah, for sure. It's nice when you get to go to like a new park or somewhere in nature that you've never been before, and you get to see all these new plants and stuff.
It's such a different experience, and I have to continue to learn that. I do the same Western road trip almost every summer because I know all my spots, and it's just perfect. But at the same time, it does lose its charm after a while, because there's nothing like that feeling of, seeing a bison the first time, seeing this the first time. It's so pure because it opens you up to something before that you never knew existed in that manner. So yeah, there's a lot to be said for that.
Very, very cool. What is the next song that we have here?
You Are the Ocean. This is just sort of a personal spiritual testament in a weird way. I'm 42 years old now. It's about that middle of a lifetime, and I do feel I've been on a path my entire life. And I also like one of the verses in the song says, there comes a day, there comes an hour when a seed becomes a flower, when your petals come all unfurled, when you open your heart to the world. Us spiritual people, we've been on these paths, we've been meditating and doing our yoga, but we kind of need to remember, like this is for real. It is about waking up. It is about salvation. This lifetime is highly precious, and we're very, very blessed to be here. We're very blessed to have the resources we have, the community we have. So it's just a song of like, this is for real, And so I'll let it speak for itself. You are the ocean. It's bossa nova.
that burning dream of my youth, that I would cling to love and truth. No, I never did let go. Under the ashes, the coals still glow. The higher that we climb, we must leave this world behind. But even for one so bold, high lonesome winds blow cold. There comes a day, there comes an hour, when our seed becomes a flower, when your petals come all unfurled, when you open your heart to the world. A raindrop falls into the sea, and it dissolves its identity, only to wake up as the ocean. Wake up, you are the ocean. There comes an hour when our seed becomes a flower, when your petals come all unfurled, when you open your heart to the world, when you open your heart to the world. Open your heart to the world. When you open your heart to the world, open your heart to the world.
All right, that was You Are the Ocean by Mateo Monk off his new album State of Affairs, and we have him in studio right now doing a live interview. Hello.
Well, that's me, folks. Hello, friends.
It's good to have you here. While the You Are the Ocean was playing, you were mentioning that a lot of your tracks on this album are kind of like you wanted to present them as like a live, one of your live songs, how like your looping kind of starts off slow and then builds up.
Well, the limitation of looping is that you can only, generally record one layer at a time. Mm-hmm. So, and I purposely try to keep my system a bit streamlined. Because, there's several artists out there like Keller and Zach Deputy, and they're great, but, they bring out an arsenal of gear, mm-hmm. and they have roadies, and they're getting paid on a scale that can justify bringing out that arsenal of gear. Mm-hmm. I've been kind of in the trenches and front lines hustling for a decade. So, I like having a system that's expressive enough for what I need, but that has its limitations. I very much believe that, art is born of limitation, and I believe in doing a lot with little, and I believe in drawing the line somewhere, like where your musicianship has to speak for itself and your tech and toys need to serve that and not vice versa.
Right.
So, but anyhow, yeah, the live show is very important to me. Like, that's what I'm trying to do. Like, I believe in the shamanistic aspect of live music, the two-way street where the artist feeds off the crowd and the crowd feeds off the artist, and you get this feedback loop, and it creates a higher resonance, and it elevates everybody's consciousness, and it makes the artist play better than he could have played. It makes the dancers dance better than they could have danced, and it makes everyone happier than they would have been. Like, that's the magic of live music to me, and that is what I'm trying to do first and foremost, is be a part of that and create that type of conscious communion in the moment, because that's the only place that truth exists. Everything else is just a cataloged lie that we store in our minds somewhere.
Right. I definitely agree. I've been to a few concerts where just being there with the musician while they're jamming out, and they kind of go off and do like a solo that they didn't have on the original album or something. That energy exchange is just it kind of connects everybody and brings everybody to a point where we're just like, it's just like one thing. It's not the musician who's creating the moment. It's like every single person is there connecting to each other, creating that moment. So I definitely agree with what you're saying.
And part of it, too, that I've really found through experience is that both for the artist and the musician, you really and the crowd, you have to leave your expectations at the door. Like, I may have an intent. Like, let's say I have a good show, like a big show that's going to have a big audience on a big stage where I'm kind of psyched about it. A lot of musicians will think that, okay, well, this is the big show, so now I have to do something special. Now I have to contrive something. Now I need to rehearse. Now I need to plan out this part, plan out that part. And what they do is they get up on that big stage and they tense up and they're trying to recreate something that sounded cool when they were practicing at home, but they're not present. They're not connecting to this audience in this moment. And it works both ways too, like, I'm a Fish head, sometimes Fish fans get angry when like Fish doesn't play the type of show that they wanted to play. They're in this mood for this complete dragon psychedelic rager, and then the band's a little more introspective and wants to dust off some old tunes, try some new tunes, and like do some stuff, It's like, I just believe that for that magic to work, that feedback loop, both the artist and the audience kind of need to leave their expectations behind and be here for this and see what is in this moment. Maybe yesterday's show will be totally different. Maybe tomorrow's show will be totally different. But right now, I don't want to come in here with a preconceived notion of what I'm trying to put across. I'm here to feel what's up, make that connection, and then get that resonance moving through the power of music, and then see what types of flowers want to come out of that and what type of ecstatic experiences want to happen. But, it's a misunderstanding to think that any of us make it happen. We open ourselves for the opportunity for it to happen. We know when we believe it can happen, and we just try to like center and get out of our own way and let it happen, So live music is really important to me. And that said, this album, I did try to make it, it's sort of like a polished version of my live sound. When I play live, I do layer my loops in one by one, and I tried to sort of recreate that on this album and not use tricks and tools that I don't use on stage. I just wanted this to be an honest portrait of what I'm doing. But of course, I have a home studio, so I want to polish some stuff, get that groove right, get that tone right, edit that one vocal. So this is kind of like my live show, but where I have time to go back and like fix and tweak and polish.
Right. Yeah. Bring Me to Life Network, we do a lot of podcasting and a lot of radio, so we know all about that audio editing. But it's not a bad thing, and
it's fun. They say music and math are like two sides of the same coin in your brain, and I find that the editing totally exercises that nerdy math side, and I love it. Yeah,
it's good to have balance in your life.
Absolutely, you got to exercise all the regions of the brain, get that thing humming.
It's important.
Yeah.
So up next, we have actually a song that's not on your new album. It's from something else.
Well, like I said, this creative flow and discipline hasn't seemed to stop, and I was like, well, I just might as well get right on to the next one. This track is not this is a live in the studio version. This is, you could say it's almost like a rough draft where I just kind of threw it down real quick and then mixed it a little bit to make sure it was tight. But this is not exactly the fully polished version. And I'm not apologizing for it. I mean, I think it's fine. But that we're talking about live music, and this was sort of a live performance in the studio. And just one thing I want to say about this song. I sung this at the Sleepy Creek Music Festival. One of my favorite festivals, by the way. Big up Sleepy Creek. But I sang it there and dedicated it to Paul B., a promoter and absolute friend of the community who passed away recently in a sort of tragic manner. And but what's interesting about this song is I was writing it the week before his festival, the last festival that he threw, Frequinox. And then Frequinox, we had mad rain and mad weather, and it just kind of washed out everything. And I mean, yeah, I never showed up to that festival. I just didn't think logistically it was going to work for what I was trying to do. So I kind of stayed home and finished up this song. So it kind of is an interesting place for me because, you know, I did kind of bail on his last festival. And of course, that's going to make you kind of feel a little sad about that. But, you know, I can't let it eat me up. But nevertheless, I was writing this song, and somehow I feel that this song was meant to be written at that time, and I dedicated it to him at Sleepy Creek. And I think this is one of the more positive statements I've ever kind of come out with. I think it certainly kind of bodes well for all of us in a strange way. I don't know. You know, I said this music comes through me. This one totally just came through. I would never sit down to try to write like a nautical song like this. You know what I mean? It's just not, I don't know where this one came from, but this one just came out. When my mom heard it, the first thing she said, she goes, why did you write that? You know, and it's interesting where these things do come from. So anyhow, I shouted it out at Sleepy Creek, and I shout it out now. This is sort of a song about homecoming. This is a song about crossing over, but it's sort of whatever you want it to be, whatever you need it to be. It's a positive statement that longing in our hearts can and will be and is being fulfilled. And you can be joyful about that. Land ho.
Sacred soil, land ho. Out of the fog we come, land ho. See it shining in the sun, land ho. Round and round we've been, land ho. But every journey has an end. See them hills, see them fields, see them rivers. Jah fulfills, Jah heals, Jah delivers. So let us haste to this great majestic mountain and drink the grace from its everlasting fountain land. Oh, out of the fog we come, land. Oh, see it shining in the sun. Sails from the mast, we have reached our home at last, land ho. Stripped our ship of all its wood, yes, we have come home for good, land ho. Feed our rations to the crows, hear the milk and honey flows, land ho. For so long did we roam, now the tide that brings us home, land home. Hear the waves roar, crashing on that blessed shore, land home. Smell the scent of the pines, let them ease your heart and mind, land home. We had no map, we had no chart, just the compass of our hearts, land home. Yes, let the foghorn blow, I want all my friends to know, land ho. Out of the fog we come, land ho. See it shining in the sun, land ho. Round and round we've been, land ho. But every journey has an end, land ho. I won't go round again.
Okay, that song was Land Ho by Mateo Monk, and I believe that was a single.
Yeah, so far. It'll be on my next album, and like I said, that was sort of the live in a studio version. Quick draft. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when I think of Land Ho, I think of like you can see your destination. Like you still have a little ways to go, but you can actually like you're starting to see your destination, and you know you're getting close. What does it mean to you as far as this song goes?
Well, that's kind of it. But think of it this way, you know, let's say you were a New World explorer, which, I mean, apart from all the Puritanism and all that, it's still a very kind of romantic, dreamy notion, the adventure of setting sail through this foggy, vast, unknown sea in hopes that there's a new world. I mean, that's pretty phenomenal. Like, that's very dreamy. So I've always kind of liked that idea. But so think about it. If you were sailing in the fog through this vast ocean and your rations are running low, you made this whole trip based on your faith, based on your belief that like there is land that you can hoe. And so it's a little more than just like getting close. It's truly seeing it. When you get there, you know, this song started with a poem, and I forget exactly what it was, but something like, you know, where the sea meets the sky, there's a thin sliver of luminous white, land ho, just something like that, you know. So it's about the ecstatic joy of witnessing that your journey has not been in vain. That indeed, land ho, you can see that mountain, you can see that shore, you can hear those waves, you can smell those pines, you can hear the birds. And now all your worry, even though there's a little way to go, you don't have to worry. For so long did we roam, now the tide brings us home. You know, the tide's going to bring us right into that beautiful harbor. Like, so the way I really intended this song was, it came from nowhere. It is an inner spiritual light, and these are times that are very scary for the world, and indeed there's a lot of darkness descending on the world, and there's a lot of suffering, and there's a lot of misery, and there's a lot of confusion. But even so, people are awakening. Even so, the light is beginning. People are putting their torches together and shining more brightly as one. There is light, and the home is there, and we are coming out of the fog, and I can see that land. And so that takes a great burden off the heart to just know that we're not lost and we're not in the fog. And even if we're not there yet, man, I sure can smell those pines. Mm-hmm. And I can see that mountain. And even if I have to jump out and swim from here and get eaten up by a shark on the way, it's all good because I know that even if I get eaten by a shark, the tide's just going to spit my bones up on that shore.
Make it.
Gonna make it.
You're gonna make it.
Yeah. So it's meant to be a positive statement. That's my favorite lyric I've ever written in my whole life is in that song, and it's such a simple thing. All it says is, "Let the foghorn blow. I want all my friends to know, land ho." So simple, but so positive and so true. Let the foghorn blow. I want all my friends to know, land ho. Mm-hmm. Forget about all this trouble we see in the world, because that's just the tombstone crumbling. And like my song says, a nut must crack for a seed to find a way to the sun. Just step back. It's okay to still have fun. Mm-hmm. Land ho. We've been doing it this long. I can see the light. Keep doing it.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of people need that in this world too. Like you said, there's a lot of suffering and whatnot. And I think some people don't understand why there's suffering, but I think, suffering can bring on wisdom and experience and expansion of us as just individuals, us as a fractal of the source. And so I think there is things to learn from it. And like having music like yours helps people out, helps them to realize that.
Yeah, that's good, because I definitely want everyone to know. I mean, I get it. I've suffered a lot, too. I mean, I've also had a lot of great opportunities, but, there's been times where I've been aimless and homeless and on the verge of just checking out, I know how it feels to be lost in a world that doesn't understand you, in a world that doesn't support you, in a world that will condemn you for having a heart, for challenging the lies that are hurting everybody. So much of it is just riding a ship straight through the fog, and there's not a lot of lights and beacons to help you get there, but I can see that. I can see the mountain, man. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. What song do you have next for us?
Next, Stars and Stripes. This is more of a politically oriented song, and then the next one following it is a very spiritually oriented song. This one is a simpler song, almost like a ditty, but it's got some things to say. What was funny about this one is I do love writing poems, and most of my songs start as poems nowadays, and then they sort of refine themselves into song form. And again, sometimes I write about things that don't seem like, I don't know, the topics sometimes choose themselves. And I wrote probably about 5 or 6 or 7 stanzas about the American flag, using the American flag as a way to voice some of my complaints and dissatisfactions with the way things are going in this country. Although this one can sound a little anti-American at first, I hope that the line in each chorus is heard, where it basically just says the things we value in America were won at a very great price, but now they're being sold very cheap. And that's sort of my complaint. I'm not really complaining about some of the more fundamental American values, especially in terms of some of the more spiritual things like liberty, equality, and justice. So I love those aspects of the American mission. However, I think that we have shamefully fallen from those ideals, and money has very much infiltrated the governance of this country. I don't think that people are being told the truth. I think we're all being manipulated, and I think it's a very dire situation no matter who gets elected. So like I said, I have a great deal of optimism for the human spirit, for the individual, but I have very little optimism for governance and civilization and the choices we're making as a whole, as a society. You know, one last thing I'll say before we play this, though. Osho, one of my favorite spiritual articulators, teachers, he was talking about this on a thing I was listening to the other day, where he just basically said, you know, man, like civilization has been trying to get it right for 10,000 plus years, you know, and look where we are at. We're very far from right. You know, the problem is that societies can't change. Only individuals can change. Societies can't look inward. Only individuals can look inward. He, as well as myself, as well as most spiritual teachers I know, believe very much that the way to change the world is to wake up the individual. You know, we all have to individually look inward, and when we do so, we make a connection to the spirit within that unifies all of us as one family. Call it love, call it whatever you want. And the more of us can look in and make that connection, the more we will illuminate the world, and the more that these shadows and deceptions that oppress us will simply disappear, because shadows can't remain in the existence of light, you know.
I'll send you right back to the practice room. You see all these crooners with their auto-tune sound more to me like the dogs of doom. Hear me now, stars and stripes make me blue. Red-faced white man and much ado. Old ragged glory, you know you make me weep now. One so hard, so cheap. One at such a price, so cheap now. One so hard, so cheap. When did your colors fade? Lately I see more of a different shade. Black with oil, scarlet red with blood. A whole lot of brown being dragged right through the mud. Hear me now. Stars and stripes make me blue. Red-faced white men and much ado. Oh, ragged glory, you know you make me weep now. One so hard, so cheap. Stars and stripes make me blue. Red-faced white men and much ado. Oh, ragged glory, you know you make me weep now. One so hard, so cheap. One at such a price, so cheap now. One so hard.
That was Stars and Stripes by Mateo Monk off his new album State of Affairs. Have you heard of the NFL player who's taken a knee during the national anthem?
Yeah. Yes, I have.
Colin Kaepernick?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I'm a total supporter, honestly. I like a lot of the things he's had to say. And if I was on his team, I'd be on a knee with him for sure, you know.
I agree with what you're saying too. Just he's bringing a lot of regardless of what everybody thinks, he's bringing a lot of attention to the fact that there is injustice in this government that we have, and the fact that, you know, he's being so peaceful with it just by sitting and by kneeling. And I read a lot of other people, like some other athletes' thoughts on what he's doing, and they said like they support what he's doing, but they don't really, you know, support how he's doing it. But I think like it's so silly because what he's doing is bringing literally national attention to like the Black Lives Matter movement and the fact that there is police brutality and all that stuff. So I think it's really great that he's doing that. And just your song Stars and Stripes kind of reminded me of that because of the flag.
Yeah. You know, at least in my generation, we were definitely raised with this, like, you know, America the holy, like can't knock with our pride, you know, like God bless America, like you know, the flag being so sacred. We're constantly giving this rhetoric day in, day out about all our troops who died and sacrificed for us, you know, like all these things. And I just don't like any type of ethos that takes topics off the discussion table. You know, there are no areas that are too sacred to intelligently discuss, too sacred to make a statement about, you know. And like you said, yeah, it's a very peaceful protest he's doing, and he's making a statement, and that statement does rub against this mentality that, oh, how dare you insult, you know, this flag, this, what are you, an American, all that stuff, you know. It's just like, all that is trying to shut down the conversation. That's just, people love shutting down conversations by hanging on to these like little points, these little things that say, oh, well, you did this, so you must be a monster. So now we don't even have to debate with you because you did this, and everyone knows that that's not right. You know, I don't like that. I don't like it when people shut down conversations because you say like one thing you're not supposed to say, or you do something that rubs people this way. Like, no, man, we need to be able to talk about stuff. Yeah. And we need to be able to make statements in peaceful ways that show our dissatisfaction. And if people disagree with that, well, then they can stand up, you know?
Yeah, it's funny because, you know, a lot of people who don't support him are kind of, you know, they're I forget what the word is, but it's patriotic to, you know, use your rights.
Exactly.
Like, we're not in North America or North Korea where, you know, we're forced to say the Pledge of Allegiance or we're forced to stand. So when people were like, you know, ragging on him for like
his lack of obedience,
right?
His perceived disrespect, you know, God forbid that a young black man should disrespect the man, you know. Right. I mean, for real, let's just get real. The system has not shown a lot of love to the black community in America at all. And sure, there are more opportunities, there's more equality, but let's be real, man. You know.
So I think like a lot of your songs here on this album, State of Affairs, are kind of bringing attention to, you know, all the things that are happening, and and in turn, I think that's going to create anybody who listens to your music and like talks about this new album to any of their friends or the other people, like they're gonna talk about the lyrics. They're gonna talk about how you're kind of bringing attention to some of the injustices, and that was even on Elise's article in Appalachian Jam, which is that she was saying that you were like the title of the album pretty much says it. Like you're talking about the state of affairs that's going on right now.
Indeed, that's why I knew I had to get this album out right now. Yeah. It's relevant to today, you know. An artist can only address today. I mean, yeah.
Mm-hmm. There's a movie that I used to watch called The Newsies, but there's a song in it where it's called Seize the Day, and it's just all about like using your rights, and nobody can take those rights away from you unless if you don't use them and don't stand up for yourself.
You do have to stand up for yourself. Inalienable rights. If you have an inalienable right, then it's your duty to preserve that and stand for that, you know. Mm-hmm. And how important that right is to you will dictate how much you're willing to sacrifice for it.
Right.
You know.
So what's your next song that you have here?
All right. Well, this one will definitely shift gears and get us back in a spiritual orientation here. This is one of the last songs written for this album. Water is the name of this one. Musically, I'm definitely exploring and playing with a little bit more synth textures and having fun with that. But the lyrics themselves, well, it's such short. There's only one verse. So I'm just going to say it. You know, can't hide from the future, can't run from the past. Swept away by a swift-moving river, hoping that your strength will last. The myth of a separate identity is the cause of all of this anxiety. We are the clouds and the river and the rain and sea. Our soul is all water. Yes, we are free. You know, and I think this song is just looking at, again, how dualistic misconceptions that come from having a disruptive, restless mind, they blind us to see our fundamental unity with creation, beyond time and space and beyond context and circumstance. You know, we are the very canvas upon which it's all painted. We're the canvas and the brush and the paint and the painter and the witness. It's all of it takes place within self. You know, it's one universal consciousness, millions of eyes and autonomous life forms, but you know, the source is one. And so that's why I say, you know, we are the clouds, the river, and the rain and sea. Our soul is all water. We are free. The idea of being swept away in the river of time and the anxiety and the struggle that comes with that, even that is a misconception. That's only a problem if you think you are this body, if you think you are this ego, if you think you are this identity that society has laid on you. But none of that is you. It's really not. It's just the weight we carry around, misidentifying, that causes us to keep spinning our wheels and suffering, you know. So meditation allows us to look deeper and see what we are not, and perhaps even glimpse and get a taste of what we truly are, you know. So I'm just trying to orient awareness in that direction with this song.
swift moving river, hoping that your strength will rise. The myth of a separate identity is the cause of all of this anxiety. You are the clouds and the river and the rain and sea. Your soul is on water, yes, we are free. From a mental projection, it's all your reflection. There is no exception. Can't hide from the future, can't cling to the past. Swept away by a swift moving river, hoping that your strength will last. The myth of a separate identity is the cause of all of this anxiety. You are the clouds and the river and the rain and sea. Your soul is on water, yes, we are free. Need protection from a mental projection. It's all your reflection. There is no exception.
That was Water off of Mateo Monk's new album, State of Affairs. And we actually have Mateo in studio right now. Hello.
Hello, everybody. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you. It's been really, fun conversation to have and to kind of talk about these issues that need to be talked about and need to be addressed. So, I've enjoyed it.
Well, like I said in our off-the-air talk here, I really appreciate Project Bring Me to Life, and that you guys are creating a platform that we can talk about some different things, perhaps even more important things than the type of distracting content you'll find on a lot of streams and radios these days. You guys are doing a good thing, and I'm really happy to get to share this platform and be a part of it.
Definitely, thank you. We try to have conscious content, and our whole mission is just to awaken humanity to spirituality, higher consciousness, and promote love, peace, equality, and unity. And I think all your music does every bit of that. So,
well, that echoes my own mission to the T. So, and I admit I don't always live up to that fully, but I am certainly every day trying to refine and hone my capacity in this world to be a better servant of the spirit.
For sure. Yeah, being a human, we have human emotions and stuff like that, but
yeah, which is a wonderful lead into this next song, actually. This is it's called Let Me Be, and there's a lot of political stuff on this song, on this album, and there's some spiritual stuff, and there's some songs about girls. That's, again, we're all human, and and love can be a complex road. So anyhow, this is just a song, where I'm just kind of laying out some of what my needs are in a relationship, where I kind of lay out my intentions of what I'm trying to do, and kind of just ask, a partner to work with that so that things can be harmonious and good. It's called Let Me Be.
naturally. 'Cause it ain't love if it ain't free. Let me be. I'm begging you, baby, please let me be. To let my love flow naturally. Love isn't always how I think it should be. The older I get, the more inward I become. 'Cause summer is here, and then it's gone, gone, gone. We've no time to waste. Life waits for no one. We've only so many days to blossom in the sun. Let me be, girl. I'm begging you, baby, please let me be. To let my love flow naturally. 'Cause it ain't love if it ain't free. Let me be. I'm begging you, baby, please let me be. To let my love flow naturally. Love isn't always how you think it should be. I cannot unlearn the chilling lessons life has shown about attachments and their wage. This love I know, it is a love that I have grown. Not a simple fairy tale lifted from a page. Let me be. Begging you, baby, please let me be. To let my love flow naturally. 'Cause it ain't love, it ain't free. Let me be. Begging you, baby, please let me be. To let my love flow naturally. Love isn't always how you think it should be. Let me be, girl. I start each day with a little meditation to clear my mind and open my heart. And in this way, I fulfill my dedication to play and sing on instruments and to fill the world with art. Let me be. Begging you, baby, please let me be. Just let my love flow naturally. 'Cause it ain't love if it ain't free. Let me be. Begging you, baby, please let me be. Just let my love flow naturally. Love isn't always how you think it should be. Let me be. Begging you, baby, let me be. Let my love flow naturally. 'Cause it ain't love if it ain't free. I'm begging you, baby, please let me be. Let my love flow naturally. Love isn't always how you think it should be.
All right, that was Let Me Be by Mateo Monk off his new album, State of Affairs. And we are very honored to have him here in studio and just grateful that he's here. Hello.
Hello.
So while that song was playing, we were talking about relationships with women and whatnot, and you know how it's important to find somebody who can respect your path and kind of respect, like for us, we're both very spiritual. So for us, it would be finding somebody who can respect our spirituality
and not compete with it, and give it the sort of space it needs to. Yeah, I spend a lot of time contemplating inward, and yeah, it's a hard. Sometimes I call it long form thinking. There are some things that you can kind of sit at your desk and work on for like an hour at a time and move on and go do other stuff. But there's some things that you really need to pull your hair out for like 12, 14, 16 hours. It's weird. Like some types of creative work I do really almost does require like just uninterrupted focus. And it's so subtle, the things that you're trying to hold on to, that like little distractions can just set you back, you know? I don't know.
Right.
So yeah, but another way to look at it too is I read an old quote that I heard somewhere, you know, when we begin the spiritual path, we're like a small seedling, and you kind of need to put a fence around it so that the cows don't come and trample it over.
Mm-hmm.
But later in the spiritual path, you're a huge oak tree, and all the cows come and lay under your shade and, you know, eat your nuts and fruits, and squirrels build nests and birds, you know, then you're shelter and for everybody. So yeah, it is a somewhat fragile thing. It's a lot like a seed, you know. First of all, a seed breaks its shell under the earth. The first thing a seed sees is just a dungeon of mud, and it's cold. And it doesn't even, it's like that song, Land Ho. The seed doesn't even have really proof yet that there's a sun above this dungeon. You kind of feel the warmth, you feel the instinctual calling to rise, but you're kind of just praying, and you know that if you don't break through, you're going to rot in that mud, you know? So there's a certain fragility to the earlier parts of a spiritual path where, yeah, you need someone who's going to understand that you're balancing some sensitive things in your heart and mind, and you're working through things, and you need the time and space to do that. And you also need the freedom to dwell in the present moment. Mm-hmm. That's kind of like the challenge sometimes that, you know, I would have, or anyone would have, is I really, as all times, try to be aware of this present moment and what's going on in this moment. And do we really need to be discussing this? Do we really need to be worrying about that, worrying about this? All the meanwhile, all this beauty is here right now, you know? So, yeah, it's good to have a partner who can dwell in the present as well. Just witness what is, be glad about that, and share in that harmony. You know, I think that's a very key part of a spiritual union.
Mm-hmm. Definitely somebody who, you know, can understand where you're coming from, and if you do need space, somebody who's willing to give that space to you. So, you know, like for me personally, it's like, except for Shannon, I haven't had very long-term relationships, mainly because like they weren't on really the same path as me. They weren't on that spiritual journey as intensely as I was. So, you know, it came to a point where in order for me to continue growing, I needed to move on. And so, you know, when I found somebody like Shannon, who's kind of as intense with the path that I am, we're both able to grow at the same rate, and to even help each other grow, which, as you know, as humans, being the human experience, it's you know, all part of it, and I think it's something that we can enjoy. Yeah,
absolutely. And our partners do help us grow a ton, you know. We all have our shares of like little strifes and things, but, you know, in the time that I've been with Danielle, my lady, I wrote this album. You know, I've transformed and grown so much. So, and a lot of that is having a supportive partner who understands you. You know,
definitely. As do you meditate a lot?
Well, I was just gonna say, another thing that'll keep a relationship together is meditating together. You know, it's funny. Most people who spend any amount of time with me end up meditating with me because it's such a part of my life. Yeah. It's either just like, you got to just join or not. You know, it's fun.
Get out of there.
Yeah. But yeah, so meditation. I discovered meditation and first started practicing it when I was 18 years old. I'm 42 now. And in the time between then and now, for the first 15 years or so, you know, I did have many years in a row where I would meditate every day and was very committed. And then I'd have some years where I'd fall off, you know, and I'd chase other things as I was growing and learning and exercising all the different parts of my being and finding the boundaries of life and all those things, you know. But, and in that time, to tell you the truth, I got into a degree of trouble with substance abuse and drugs, you know. And when I kind of reached the bottom of that, in desperation, you see, luckily I had already had a foundation in yoga and meditation, so I had some strong practices that I had let go, but I had the tools to kind of pull myself out of the gutter a little bit. And So as I was getting through those problems, I started getting very serious with my practice, and I made a personal commitment that I was just going to do that every day for the rest of my life. And I have since then, and it actually has been 12 years now that I think about it. That started the fall of 2004, and I guess we're in the fall of 2016 right now, so here we are. Yeah. And
I think meditation is a great way for people to become mindful of how they're feeling emotionally, physically, and spiritually. And you can't balance something if you don't know what's going on. You gotta become mindful of something before you can figure out how to transcend and bring balance back.
The mind is often, metaphors are made comparing the mind to water, and there's so many different ways to make that metaphor, and so many of them apply to meditation. But, one thing that I don't think a lot of people realize is how much a lot of our lives are really just kind of like being in an inner tube on a lake on a windy day. You're kind of just getting kicked all around, and you think you're in control and you think you're paddling here, but you're really just kind of exhausting yourself. And you're so much less in control of your decisions and actions than you think, because you're still such a subject to the temperament of the mind and how that affects the emotions and all these things. So meditation is very powerful. It almost gives you this magical power to, just silence that wind and make that lake still. And then all of a sudden you feel very light and very buoyant, and you realize, I can paddle over here, I can paddle over there. It gives you a certain autonomy in the world, because you're no longer subject to the constantly changing cycles of elements, of emotions, it gives you a grounding in yourself. And that grounding is very, very valuable, and it very much helps what I do with music, playing psychedelic music has its own wild energies, Festivals can be nuts, like jumping in and off of stage, just all the different energies around, and then getting on stage, and who knows where your head's at, and you got these lights blinking in your face, and you got people expecting this and that. So it's like I said about playing on a big stage, is like you have to have the skill to withdraw from that, so that you can be present. You can be just as comfortable as you are in your studio, even if you're at Madison Square Garden, because that's not you. Like, you got to just get out of the whole paradigm of going from here to there no, I'm here to make music. I've made music my whole life. I'm good at it. Let's do this, guys, but you got to have that, the presence and that degree of the mastery of mind to not get carried away on all these different distractions and emotions and things. And so, meditation brings a great sense of liberty and autonomy. It does make me feel better about everything in life, because honestly, if the rug got swept out from under me, I kind of feel, as long as I have this meditation practice and some outlet and recourse to nature, I'm cool. That's kind of that's enough I need to remember who I am and not get hurt by the world, Right. One last thing I want to say about meditation too, though, is the physical benefits can't be brushed under the rug either. It's a little bit esoteric way to look at it, but the way I look at meditation is you just kind of bring all aspects of being into a sort of abidance, and in doing so, because there are less competitive energies trying to do this and that, again, a subtle energetic resonance can start to occur. And the more you hone in and focus with breathing, that resonance can amplify until your entire body, mind, and spirit system is integrated and unified and resonating as one. And if you just think about that on a cellular level, down to all the tiny cells that make up who we are in our body and the water and everything, energy's real. You can say I'm spouting mystical mumbo jumbo, but energy's real. And if you silence your mind and you can harmonize your natural energies and attune them with solar energy, the energy of the earth, the universe, then it's extremely healthy for your body as well, not just your mind and spirit, because every single cell of your body resonates in sort of a holistic unity, and it realizes that it is an integrated system and that it can communicate, and that it's not just this separate, we have a lung, we have a spleen, we have like we're a system, and we're radiating, we're warm, we're unified, we become in this blanket of energy. So meditation is the single most valuable thing I could offer to anybody. But the thing about it is that I truly believe it takes daily perseverance. One of the metaphors I make is, let's just say, like, you live in this neighborhood and across the street there's this field. In the middle of the field there's this big, like a circular forest, just a big forest, but it's dense and it's full of thorns. But at the very middle of the forest, there's the most beautiful Eden glade you could ever imagine. There's life-giving water, there's everything, and it's perfectly peace. And so, of course, we want access to that. How nice would it be if we could just leave our problems, walk out our front door, and go over to that Eden, And meditation can sort of allow that, but I think of it like a machete. You got to get in there and you got to cut a path through eventually with discipline and perseverance to be able to reach that center. And then just reaching it ain't enough. You got to keep practicing that path and keep cutting back those weeds, which is the mind, all these distractions, all these things trying to get in there and take your energy, take your importance, and keep your mind in a volatile and restless state, So by persevering daily, you can continually chop those vines and weeds until they just sort of get it and they just stop coming. And even if they do come, the very second you set foot at that path, they just sort of know and they pull back, After meditating for a while, it can become very, very second nature to sort of drop into that non-dual communion, and that is a very great gift.
Definitely. And for anybody who kind of wants to get into the meditation and has trouble sitting there for a while, I first started with a guided 10-minute meditation and just doing that every day. It opened up to a longer meditation, and it opened up to a longer meditation. And so, if you can't start off with a half an hour or an hour right away, just start off with just a few minutes, and then continue to do that, and just take it one day at a time. And, eventually you get to the point where, you're meditating without even having to try, you just...
Yes, truly wise words indeed. One of the ways I look at it is a daily practice gets a toe. You just got to get a toe in the door. You got to open up that opportunity that invites the spirit into your life. And I look at each day like a microcosm of eternity. The sun rises, the sun sets, and recedes back into the void. And if in this single microcosm of a day, we can't set aside 5 minutes to empty ourselves, to be receptive, to offer gratitude, love, respect to the conscious energy that animates and sustains all life, to just find that inward connection. It's like if you're not doing that daily, I think you're kind of missing the point. You are just on that energy of being kicked around on a choppy river, Mm-hmm. I really advocate the daily discipline. But exactly as you're saying, you can start small. If you just set aside 5 minutes and just sit there and breathe, that's the beginning, and you can make that connection with spirit, and then the spirit will start having more and more influence and inspiration in your life, and that absolutely will grow. My teacher, Sri Karunamai, one of my favorite quotes of her is simply, take one step towards me and I'll take 1,000,000 steps towards you. But, you have to make that step. Another thing that she says that I think is highly interesting, she says, to live a blameless life is not enough for liberation, for salvation. You have to cut out ignorance. You have to learn and understand the mind and how it can enslave us. And we have to discover our connection to the spirit. We have to learn who we are not and who we are. And that takes some effort, something. She says it doesn't necessarily matter what it is, whether you just do puja every day or, meditation, but there has to be a degree of a devotional yearning. You have to make that gesture. And so she says, take one step towards me, I'll take 1,000,000 steps towards you. So what you're saying is, and what I'm saying both, is that yes, the daily practice is very important. You don't have to start meditating for 2 hours every day. But if you can just start setting aside 5 minutes, it'll grow to 10, it'll grow to 15, it'll grow to 30. You start with the limited techniques you have, and you'll just see. Truth will gravitate towards you, and you'll learn better techniques. Like, jump on in. It's for you. Meditation is not just for people in loincloths in the mountains in India. It's for you, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
And, yeah.
Cool. Well, I think we have one more song that will kind of tie into what we're saying, and then after that, we'll say our byes.
Sounds perfect, my friend. Yes, this song is called Quiet Moment. It's largely an instrumental. There's a short poem at the beginning, and this just kind of channels some of those Eastern vibes that has been very critical to all of my path in life. I have learned so much from the wisdom of the East, both through Taoism and through the Vedic tradition. Go ahead.
Hum a tune on my way home as honeybees supply the drone. The sun is poised on zenith high, not a cloud within the sky. Every step is soft and slow, if I do not walk but flow, an upward rising in my spine, not a cloud within my mind.
And that was Quiet Moment by Mateo Monk off his latest album, State of Affairs. We've had him in studio for the past 2 hours, and we really appreciate you coming.
I really appreciate having this opportunity to discuss and articulate some of the context of this music and this whole approach, man. And it's nice to meet a bro who's resonating on the same vibes and doing some solid stuff, you know? Yeah.
Definitely, just after I read that article on Appalachian Jam, which I knew I wanted to have you come on. We've talked about it before, but after I saw that, it was just like the universe was like, okay, this is gonna happen. Like, this is the perfect time.
Well, it came at a perfect time for me too. Like I said, this album means a lot to me, and I like talking about these things. So I really, really appreciate the opportunity, and I hope that the listening world gets some benefit and positive vibes out of it.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
You
know,
so, one quick plug. I just want to let them know that the record right now, you can get it on iTunes or Amazon or Spotify. The hard copies of the record are being printed up now, and I'll have them at my shows soon. Amazon does have a thing where you can order a hard copy version that they burn, where they just put my cover on it, and it's kind of like a simpler version of my full album CD, So if you want hard copy, you can get it from Amazon. But other than that, digital downloads through iTunes, Spotify, Amazon.
Cool. And if they want to find out more information about you, it's MateoMonkmusic.com?
That's correct. Yeah.
Awesome. And is there any social media that you're on right now?
I'm pretty active on Facebook, for better or for worse. If you want to hear my commentary about things, then follow my personal page. If you don't want to hear that and just keep the music pure, which I fully understand, I have a music page called Mateo Monk Music. And then every now and then I'll just throw some stuff on Instagram, but it's mainly Facebook and a little Instagram. That's about all I do on that,
Okay, awesome. And just one last thing I would ask for you to do, and is, could you say, this is Mateo Monk, and you're listening to Bring Me to Life Radio?
This is Mateo Monk, and you're listening to Bring Me to Life Radio.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. Peace.